Lazarus.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to Senator Canavan, representing the Minister for Resources, Energy and Northern Australia. Given recent downturn in the domestic meat processing industry and the stand-down of local workers at meat processing plants in Rockhampton and Townsville, can you outline what steps the government has taken or is planning on taking to protect the jobs of those affected in those communities?
The Minister representing the Minister for Resources, Energy and Northern Australia, Senator Canavan.
Thank you, Mr President. I thank the senator for his question. What has happened in our meat industry and for meat workers in particular in the last year is unfortunate, and it is concerning, and it is an unfortunate legacy of the most severe drought that we have had in Queensland for many times. So during the drought, there was not enough grass for our graziers and farmers, and there was a large turn-off of cattle in North and Western Queensland. And at the height of the drought, there was record numbers of cattle go through our meatworks. It peaked at more than 8.5 million head through our meatworks a few years ago. Now, that created a lot of work for our meat industry and a lot of work for meat workers. But of course, because so much production occurred back then, there is now a reduction in production. And that is of having these impacts in terms of lower employment at our meatworks. But what this government will not do, Mr President, is help one group of Australians by penalising another group of Australians. The way to help this industry is not to hurt another group of Australians. And of course, Mr President, one of the groups of people that have been most affected by the drought has been our graziers and producers. And if we had to introduce caps or regulations which would hurt their ability to sell their cows, their heifers, their steers for the best price possible, that would hurt the very people that have been hurt the most by this drought. So what this government is focused on is making sure that our red meat industry has access to markets, that it can maximise its price. The Chinese Free Trade Agreement itself that has just been concluded will help remove an $800 million a year tax on our red meat industry. That's how much Chinese tariffs cost our red meat industry every year, and through the conclusion of the Chinese Free Trade Agreement, that tax will be removed from our industry. That is the way we're going to help our red meat industry. That is the way we're going to help more work for our meat workers and support all of our Australian industries.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Lazarus, supplementary question.
Given that more than 8,000 Queenslanders are employed in the meat processing in Queensland, what is the government doing to prevent further job losses in the industry in my home state of Queensland and across the country more generally?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. And Senator Lazarus is right. Mr President, that our meat industry, our beef industry, is a major employer in our north. Of course, it is not the only industry. It is not the only industry facing reductions in jobs in North and Central Queensland. The coal mining industry alone in my area has had job losses of 21,000 in the last 2 or 3 years. 21,000. And, Mr President, I've heard before Senator Lazarus call into question the merit of our coal industry and whether it should be supported. And if we are going to support employment in North and Central Queensland, we need all industries to thrive. We need a diverse economy. We need a strong beef sector. We need a strong coal mining sector. We need a strong tourism sector. And that is why the government is focused on initiatives like our North Australian Plan, which is seeking to invest in all of those industries. More than $1.2 billion of initiatives, a $5 billion low concessional plan. That is how we're going to create jobs in North Queensland across our entire economy.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Lazarus, final supplementary question.
An employer involved in this downturn, Tees Australia, has stated that increased demand for live exports has been a cause of this downturn. Does the government stand by the Prime Minister's statement that free trade agreements such as TPP are the foundation stones of future prosperity for Australians?
Order. On my right. Order. Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. I note the comments that Senator Lazarus has made about from one particular meat processor, but that is certainly not the view of the entire industry. And I might quote to Senator Lazarus a submission from JBS, another major employer in my town in Rockhampton, and they made a submission to a Senate red meat inquiry that I would suggest the senator should get involved in. And that submission said As an industry based on free market principles, we do not need more government intervention or costs in the red meat supply chain. There is a role for government ensuring the integrity of the red meat product for domestic and export markets, in addition to drive competitiveness and profitability, requires commitment, action and, above all, cooperation from all stakeholders in the supply chain, from the farm gate to processors and up to the Commonwealth Government. And I would suggest the best way we can help our red meat industry is the entire supply chain work together, not to try and hurt some and penalise others to help some in Australia. That is not our approach, and we reject what Senator Lazarus is
Thank
suggesting.
you, Minister.